Hello, Nets fans. Welcome to another edition of the Booking Buzz. I'm Jac Manuell, as always, joined by the incomparable Nick Fay. Nick, not the best night, but how you doing anyway?
I'm doing all right, Jack. I almost have become numb to these kind of losses since they happen so much.
Yeah, it's a bit odd, but we had such promise early on, and it's almost been taken away just through the hands of your boy Carol Levert. But we'll focus on this Jazz outfit. As always, guys, netropublic.com, otgbasketball.com, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, Dash Radio, YouTube. Is that it, Nick?
Yeah, you got it, Jack.
Yeah, cool. All right, I'm getting better at this. But enough about me. Nick, what went wrong? The Nets had an outstanding third quarter. Both teams had a so-so first quarter and first half. But what was the story of this one?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the box score, it looks like the Jazz, made the comeback in the fourth quarter, and that's really what happened. It was a meltdown by the Nets, 101-91 Jazz, and the Jazz scored 31 in the fourth, the Nets scored 13. And like you said, in that third quarter, things were going good. They caught some nice juice. The energy was high. Spencer Dinwiddie was on like a 17-point scoring run of his own, and he was hot, and they put up 36 points. The Jazz put up 27. But it felt good for the Nets. Then as soon as that fourth quarter started, Utah kind of picked up the defensive energy a little bit, the physicalness a little bit as well. They started Donovan Mitchell really took over. Gobert had his impact, and the Nets offense just went stagnant. They couldn't get any points, anything anywhere. They were getting sloppy with the ball. This game also saw season lows for the Nets in field goal percentage at 34.9, assists at 11, and turnovers wasn't a season low, but it was terrible at 20.
Yeah, Nick, how did, obviously, when the Jazz started off so poorly themselves, how did they get themselves up to that 47.6 number? Was it just them making shots? Was the Nets giving them open lanes, or we couldn't, protect the paint? Obviously, they outscored us there. Rudy Gobert had a massive night, as did Donovan Mitchell. What were the story of that one?
Mitchell really took over in the fourth quarter. He was kind of struggling throughout the game, and then he just turned it on. Like you said, Gobert was just a monster the entire game. A lot of the Nets guards would either get lost on pick and roll or just lost under a defender. Jared Allen would have to step up, and then Gobert would have an easy lane to the rim for either a dunk or a putback and whatnot. Then also the Jazz had a couple guys just step up. Like Royce O'Neal was 5 of 6, hit 3 threes. He was 3 for 3. I think he was shooting under 30% from 3 before the game. Raul Neto was 4 of 8 from the field. They had some guys just hit shots where, the Nets would have lived with them shooting those shots. Just happened to hit them this night. And the Jazz also stayed consistent with what they're trying to do, attacking the paint, getting inside, winning their matchups, and just played better in the fourth quarter. They carried their energy because the Jazz picked up their offense in the third quarter. Their defense just kind of dropped off, but they continued that hot offense in the fourth quarter as well, where so the Nets just got completely stagnant.
Yeah, 13 points to 31. Not going to win you many games when you're scoring 13 points in a quarter. But, Nick, let's focus a bit on our Nets. D'Angelo Russell had one of his poorer games for the season, 6 of 25 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. Did have 7 assists and a couple of rebounds here and there, but did have 4 turnovers. What went wrong for D'Lo?
Yeah, he just wasn't hitting shots. He had a lot of good looks. He was getting in the paint. Gobert definitely impacted him. The Utah's defense was physical with him. He wasn't getting to necessarily the spots he wanted to. They also did a great job of kind of collapsing the paint as soon as any of the Nets got inside, especially off of pick and rolls. And the Nets weren't really doing a good job moving the ball. Like I said, 11 assists. And as soon as they would drive, they either kind of force up the shot or throw a bad pass out of that, 20 turnovers. And it just, like, they weren't being patient and they weren't persistent driving. It's like things weren't going right. The Jazz were playing physical. They were being stern. And the Nets really didn't keep going at them, because when they did in that third quarter get to the free throw line, good things happened. It's just like they almost got lazy and they didn't really want to deal with the physicalness of the Jazz.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert down low is obviously going to be a force. Him, guys like Joel Embiid, I think you need to stick true to what you're saying, like you mentioned, Nick. Keep going, keep attacking, because you get a guy like Rudy Gobert in foul trouble, and it makes the lanes a little bit more open, makes those looks a little bit better. But another guy who we've spoken about at length, Alan Crabbe, another poor night, 3 of 10 from the field, only 9 points. 3 of 7 from 3, though, so all of his shots he did hit from the perimeter. But Nick, is Alan Crabbe's contract right now a top 5 worst in the NBA?
Yeah, it probably is. I think going to the game, he's shooting like one of the worst field goal percentages in the NBA for guys that actually, play X amount of games. And Crabbe also had 2 passes in this game that were just absolutely terrible. I don't know who he was passing to. They were just like way off over the head of, I think, one D'Angelo Russell. I can't remember the other player. Still just doesn't look fully confident. Doesn't really look confident other than shooting threes. Like, there was a layup in this game where he had a good look. There was another point where he could have kind of drove it, Ricky Rubio, and got right to the rim. He didn't do it. Alan Crabbe is just completely out of sync right now. He needs something to kind of reset his game.
Yeah, I think we spoke about, we touched on it, a couple of times with Brian and in general about our depth. When you have one of your key guys performing so poorly. He's had one above average game this season. All the rest of them have been below average or even worse. You can't, who are we going to put in there instead? We have Shabazz Napier playing 16 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie got 22. I would prefer those guys to be getting a few more minutes, but in Alan Crabbe's place, he has a bit more size about him as well. And, does those minutes go elsewhere? It's hard to sort of, a lot of guys will pen the blame on Coach Kenny yet again, but the Nets just don't have the depth of talent. We have the depth, but I think Coach Kenny at times can be afraid to sort of, extend the rotation or give out minutes to guys. And I think if you take away those minutes from Alan Crabbe, it's going to, make things even worse and make his contract even more of an albatross. And obviously, we're trying to free up space going forward. And he's really the only blip on Sean Marks's otherwise very good GM resume. But is there a solution for the Alan Crabbe situation there?
I'm not sure. And the reason Dinwiddie didn't play big minutes, he was in foul trouble a lot this game. But back to Crabbe, I really don't know what they can do. They put him in the starting lineup trying to boost up his confidence. It's on Alan Crabbe to kind of be better. Maybe they can try to move him in some type of deal, but I doubt anybody wants that contract. It would have to be in some type of bigger deal where the Nets are maybe going after a star-type player, a player with like a reasonably sized contract. But right now, I don't know if there's much that Nets can do to make Alan Crabbe better. It's more so on him.
Yeah, it definitely has to be on him. And I think you can only do so much as a coach before it becomes out of your hands, like you mentioned. But Nick, Rondo Hollis-Jefferson started yet again. Box score looks okay. Jared Dudley continuing in his best role. DeMarre Carroll, I think, is still finding his feet, which is a little bit of a worry. So I think the fourth situation, any improvements?
Not really. Rondé had some decent moments in the game, high energy, some nice drives at Gobert, attacking the rim, just a little bit of inconsistency, a little bit out of control. The fourth quarter, he took like a three, in the corner. Obviously, you don't want that when it's a close game. Just Rondé is not great at, taking like starter type minutes. In a smaller role of like 24 minutes, I think he's great. And like you said, DeMarre, he almost missed this game with a sore foot/ankle on the one he just had surgery on. So that's a little concerning. But if he can get healthy, I think that'd be a major boost for the Nets because he even adds in the rebounding department. You see him always attacking the boards. And Jared Dudley, he looks more like Jared Dudley of last year than the one we saw in the first 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Nick, we've seen some of our young guys, our G League guys, performing really, really well. Is it time for even guys like Alan Williams to get the call up?
I've been really intrigued with Alan Williams because I remember when he was in Phoenix and he was actually healthy, he put up some monster nights, but I'd be interested to see what he can do. And obviously he still brings the rebounding prowess. So someone to keep an eye on, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're 6 games behind 500 now. I think the playoffs are becoming more and more out of reach. Obviously that Grizzlies games becomes even more important going forward. But I'd like to see Rodions. I'd like to see Jana. I especially want to see Rodions. But I think now is the time to sort of see what you've got with these guys because I think that they are, you need to see if they're potential rotation pieces going forward and if they have a place on your roster, going into the future because, there's going to be a lot of finagling going forward in terms of the roster, in terms of, free agency and such. But I'm excited. I hope Coach Kenny starts to experiment a little bit more. But I do remember seeing a quote from our guy, Brian Fonseca. He asked about the sort of power forward position and they're not going to make any sort of decisions until a couple of games and see how Rondé is in his, starting role and see how Jared Dudley is in his backup role. But, Jared Dudley, we've said before, he's better served as a backup. But, man, that power forward position, I think it's always been our most, weak position. And I think it's
for years.
For years and years. And especially when a guy like DeMarre Carroll, isn't at his best and Rondo Hollis-Jefferson hasn't been able to expand his game beyond, 10 to 12 feet. But there are a lot of issues. But Nick, any hope for the Grizzlies game before we get off this one?
Yeah, just to touch on a couple points you said, I think, by the end of 2018, we'll have a really good idea where the Nets are going to go. And they're going to be competing for the playoffs or it's going to be more so, let the young guys play /tank kind of in a way. Because right now the direction is unsure with the way the 4 position is, like you said, Jack. So, that's something to really keep an eye on. Is Rodion's going to get minutes? Is Musa going to get minutes? Could they actually help this team and make them better? It's something we'd like to see going forward. For the Grizzlies game, the Grizzlies haven't been, amazing this season. They've definitely picked it up, but over the last few games, I think against Toronto, they showed some of their flaws. Obviously, Toronto's really good. So I think the Nets have a chance to beat them, but it's not like I'm picking them to win by a large margin. Like, I think this is a game where they really need to win if the playoffs are a real goal for them, because if not, it's, what is it, 5 straight losses?
Yeah, you can't really, crawl your way back from 7 wins behind 500. It's going to get really, really difficult, especially when we don't have anyone coming back in the near future. Trevion Graham is still a wait and see proposition, and we need him probably more than ever. I mean, it's tough to say for a guy who's in his first year with the team and in his second year, I believe, in the NBA. And Karis LeVert, obviously, we can talk about him at length about how much we miss him. Especially if you're talking about a guy like Donovan Mitchell. Check out Karis LeVert on there. Did the job on Devin Booker. Did the job on Gary Harris. I wouldn't be surprised if he would have done it on Donovan either. But Nick, any final thoughts?
No, really, Jack. That's about it. I mean, I think sometimes, the games people like to point out to like Kenny the reason they lost, but I think this is a game where it's on the players. Shooting 34% from the field, 20 turnovers. Coach really can't do much for you there. I think the guys just need to step up, and someone other than Spencer Dinwiddie and D'Angelo Russell need to step up. I think those two. Even D'Lo had a bad game tonight, but he's still trying. He's trying to be aggressive. Nobody else on the team is really taking on that bigger role, which someone needs to do.
Yeah, you need a third sort of ancillary piece. It's an Otto Porter type. I'm not alluding to the fact that we're going to go after Otto Porter, but you need a sort of third role guy, whether it's a Joe Ingles. Obviously he didn't have his best night, but you need that sort of, Rondé is sort of, but he just it doesn't fit offensively for us. He's probably still our best defender, but even then, I'd much rather have Karis LeVert as our sort of defender going forward, and even to a lesser extent Trevion Graham, because I think he has a little more capability man on man and on some of those guard guys. But guys, always thanks for listening. Nick, do the spiel because you're much better at the moment. It rolls off your tongue a lot better.
Thank you, Jack. It's a lot of practice. And you can follow the Brooklyn Buzz on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, NetsRepublic.com, YouTube, and Dash Radio.